You can co-create a sex life that's filled with excitement, adventure, and risk without ever needing to go outside your relationship. Hi, I'm Holly, and this is Happily Ever After. I'm passionate about helping you to create a happy, healthy, and sustainable long-term relationship, and I know this doesn't just happen by chance, which is why I'm here to show you how you can make this happen in your own life. In this episode, we discuss Netflix's latest show, Sex Life, and actually answer some of the main questions that it poses. Rather like the main character in the show, viewers can come out of watching Netflix new series Sex Life feeling torn 85% one way and 15% the other. What do I mean by that? Well, 85% of the time we remember we're just watching a show intended to titillate. We get to watch people with some impossibly great bodies, enjoying some impossibly great sex. Okay, it's not always totally great. And the other 15% of the time, the show keeps us on the edge of feeling like it's going to help us out by dangling the carrot of the great conundrum of long-term relationships: security versus excitement. Throughout the series, we feel as though they are inching ever closer to a hugely valuable revelation on this topic. And this is the impetus that keeps us watching and on the edge of our seats. We're thinking, in the midst of her crisis, surely Billy will discover something deep and profound, right? After all, in this apparent tale of female empowerment, surely she must want something more than just an elephantine penis to make her life complete. Can she really be that shallow? Well, look, I get it. Great sex does not a great relationship make, but try having a relationship without sex, or maybe with just very below par sex. You see, nowadays we demand excellence from our partners in all areas, no matter how unrealistic that may be. I mean, honestly, can you say you overachieve in all areas of your life? Whilst the show tries to spin their tale as one of female empowerment, I have to ask, perhaps our Billy is not as forward-thinking and empowered as she believes. You see, she's tripping over the oh so familiar hurdle of actually being authentically honest with the person she loves and that she's chosen to spend her life with. And I have to wonder, if they'd cultivated more emotional intimacy in their relationship early on, and she was able to talk about this subject rather than withholding it, would they ever have got into such a pickle? Truth and honesty is a path filled with tripwires, though. What should we withhold? What must we share? What will wound? And what will ultimately heal? Can we just be 100% truthful with our partners all the time? And more importantly, should we be? In an interview with Vogue, the lead actress Sarah Shahi says of the show, "The message we had was pretty incredible. We're encouraging men and women to get really in touch with who they are. This is a story of a woman who is having an identity crisis. She seems to have everything on paper, but she has the courage to say, 'This is not enough, and I'm not fulfilled, and I want more.'" However, I feel like her message and her understanding here is perhaps a little off the mark. Sure, we all lose ourselves at some point, cue the classic midlife crisis. And at some point in life, we will indeed need to get in touch with who we are. And sometimes this will even be at the expense of your relationship. Even if you did not intend it to be collateral damage, it may just get caught in the crossfire, rather like Billy. But to my mind, when you're developing the courage to say, "This is not enough," about your relationship, you actually have to have that conversation with your partner in the first instance. Billy's lack of willingness to discuss their sex life was, in my opinion, the cause of the entire shit show that she brought upon herself. Her love for this other man was only ever really lust, and not so much for him even, it was just for a previous version of herself. What she loved was the idea of another version of herself, a younger, wilder, freer version, devoid of so many responsibilities that come with adulthood. And any of you who have been on the planet for, say, 2 or 3 decades or more will definitely relate to that. We've all known a time that had less responsibility and more fun, when there were less personal demands on us, and as time passes, that of course changes. I believe it's traditionally known as growing up. The truth is, we all need to be growing, progressing, evolving as the years go by, and being mentally and emotionally stuck in another time is just plain unhealthy. And as our main character has chosen a career in psychology, I felt she might just have noticed that herself. Shahi, in her Vogue interview, goes on to say, I think it's important to admit that you have wants and desires. You should still be getting turned on by your partner of 30 years, and if you're not, to be ready to go out there and seek the version of your life that makes you happy. And of course, this does beg the question if it's realistic or unrealistic to demand that. And the show is honest in its intention to be provocative about this subject. Listen, lockdown practically annihilated our sex life. It turns out that you can have too much of a good thing, and being together 24/7 is perhaps the ultimate prophylactic. But do I love my husband any less, or want to go and bonk some random ex because of that? No, of course not. I did find it hard to relate to a woman who was so caught up in this lusty haze that she could not see the wood for the trees. Sure, what looks good on paper is not always a great reality, exemplified by the weird Stepford wives that were Billy's friends in Connecticut. And you should not be with someone or stay with someone because they form a good checklist. Your driving factor in a relationship must, of course, be love. That is your why, and without that, problems aplenty will crop up. It took Billy almost losing her marriage to see what she had, and to remember Brad was actually a total douchebag. Nothing unusual there, it's simply human nature to behave this way. However, as a viewer, her almost ridiculous obsession with Brad reached annoying levels at times. I found myself shouting at the TV that she just needed to build a bridge and get over it. So, what kept me hanging on? Ironically, it was that 15%. As Danette Chavez pointed out on AV Club, the sublimation of desire and identity that often happens in long-term relationships, and the realization that choosing a path does not equal long-term satisfaction are topics worth exploring. And indeed they are. If, like me, you believe that you can actually be more yourself within your relationship and with your partner than almost anywhere else on earth, then you'll feel compelled to disagree with the idea that you lose your identity when you are with someone else in a relationship. Now, when I got married, I kept my surname. People have, of course, asked me why over the years, and I have a million small reasons about this. It's an administrative nightmare. My husband's surname is also a girl's name, so I didn't want to have a double girl's name. I got married late on by average standards, so that's kind of how people know me by now. Hey, I just like my surname. The list goes on. Now, the cynical might have thought at the time, she doesn't expect it to work out. It's just, easier to transition back to single life that way. However, those who've known me for a long time would also recognise my fierce feminist side. I am a woman in my own right, not his property, not belonging to him. I am me. And of course, I have the right to do that. I'm protecting my identity. Even if I love to be called his wifey, and I get a wonderful feeling in my stomach when he tells me, "You're mine," I can simultaneously enjoy those things and not become nothing but a wife. And it's our job in the relationship to honour each other and ourselves, to ensure we know that individually we're unique, special and outstanding creatures. Together, though, we can be absolutely alchemical. It's not our job to change the other to be more like us, but to make them more like themselves. Not to sublimate desire in the other, but actually to tease it out and to nurture it. And why? Because it's actually our differences that keep us attracted to each other long term and keep the spark alive. In an interview with Refinery29, Shahi said, when she goes to Brad in those last moments and says, now fuck me, it's not so much about him. It's about her unleashing this part of herself that she's been denying for so long. She continues, a lot of people go, is it Team Cooper? Is it Team Brad? And I've always been on Team Billy. I refute the notion of being able to find yourself or define yourself as a woman through a man. And honestly, I personally find this viewpoint confusing. In short, I do not relate. But then I know that I'm quite lucky. I've done the work needed to individuate in my relationship, and my husband and I know we are two individuals who are choosing to be together. We're not driven by a desperate need or insecurity, as I certainly had been in the past. Instead, we see all the shitty stuff and we still say, yes, it is you I want. So I don't define who I am through my husband. I'm lucky and grateful to have such a wonderful man in my life, and sure, he encourages me to be the best me I can be, just like I encourage him to do the same. But I'm not Holly because I'm his wife. I was always Holly, and I will always be some version of me. And, as I'm sure many women will instinctively understand, we're rather like a vaporous cloud, constantly changing, growing, discarding and renewing who we are. In fact, since I studied Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra way back when I was 16, I've been convinced that, rather like Will's Cleopatra, all women are creatures of infinite variety. Hell, I struggle to define myself most of the time, so having a husband is certainly never going to stop that from being the case. And, to be honest, I think I rather like it that way. It's my belief that in a relationship, your person provides a sacred space for you to be the most you that you can be. They are the vessel that holds you. You can be wildly, unashamedly, unapologetically you. And if you're going to be unleashing the part of yourself that you have denied for so long, to quote Shahi, then that person, your person, is the one you can unleash it upon in total safety. It seems this is a memo that Billy has missed though, although she understands that she has different versions of herself, and we see her as the wild child, the sex kitten, and then later the wife, the mum, and the career woman. And I believe any woman watching the show will relate to that. We have aspects of ourselves. In fact, for a beautiful gem to truly shine, it must have multiple facets, and so it is with people. A quick scan of the comments on Reddit confirm what I personally already believe. People are pissed off with this show. Why? Because ultimately the message it delivers is still quite wrong. Sure, go live in an ashram for a year if you need to, but fucking another guy just because you feel incomplete is not the answer to a personal growth dilemma. The comments I read point out that this show trashes the idea of fidelity, an idea many people are still very happily attached to. The common opinion is that this show only reinforces the notion that good guys finish last, and your wife is allowed to go and have sex with her ex if she's too emotionally infantile to actually discuss her issues with you, and she can't stop dreaming of the guy with the porn dick. The show even sends the message, it's okay to cheat if it's in the name of discovering yourself. And it kind of says, it's okay to be 100% self-centered and selfish as long as you get yours. And funnily enough, not everyone is a fan of those sort of messages. Working on your marriage and yourself go hand in hand. I know because I've done it. My quest to sort out my marriage led me to an incredible growth spurt as a human being. And this woman seems to have missed the fricking point. She's actually devolved. Your personal growth cannot ever be justified if you're consciously creating casualties because of it. Sure, we live in an age of encouraging everyone to dance to the beat of their own drum, but that doesn't mean smashing up someone else's drum in the process, no matter how imperfect they may be too. As a psychologist, I would have thought she'd be way beyond this self-serving behaviour, but there are no aha moments for her. She is, unfortunately, just thinking with her metaphorical dick. One classic comment on Reddit about sums it up for me, which is this. Billy ultimately seemed shallow, immature, childish and delusional. How can someone like this be raising children? The plot twist at the end was so ridiculous. This isn't an empowered woman choosing to have it all. This is a woman child who doesn't know how to control herself and let go of the past. I think she and Brad are quite suited for each other. Still trying to get my eyes straight from rolling them back non-stop throughout this entire series. Honestly, the show seems to have confused empowerment with just being a bit of a selfish asshole. You want to be a sexually empowered woman, Billy? Then empower yourself to discuss your sex life with the person with whom it is actually concerned, your husband. And another user on Reddit said, I don't understand why being married with kids has to be portrayed in such a negative light. The image of stuck and boring is not some factor that automatically comes with every marriage. You can still have hot or awesome sex after being married for a decade. To which I say, amen, but for many of us this will not come without a fight. The show briefly touches on the way women have been repressed sexually by society, and as a woman I understand this deeply and almost instinctively. It's still not acceptable for a woman to be sexually accomplished, assertive or expressive, and that will only ever filter out into our relationships unless we take some conscious, deliberate, determined action to be otherwise. However, cheating on your husband, I would argue, is not the way forward. Despite the frustrations with the character's moral compass and first world problems, the show still poses perhaps the question for those of us in long-term relationships. The anti-monogamy psychologist who Billy questions in the show says, sex is really just about sex. What's it about for you? To which she answers, desire, feeling desired, freedom. To which he counters, the person who gives you the security can't be the same person who gives you the thrill. And for me, that is actually what the show is all about. It's clear that Billy wants the security of a committed relationship, but she also wants the thrill and excitement she had with Brad. She wonders if it's possible to have the security and the danger, and actually, this is the conundrum of long-term love. Our drive to find safety is what propels us to find a love partner, a life partner. Yet, it's the element of danger, the unexpected, the unknown that keeps the spark alive between us. So, how do you balance the two? Cultivating safety in a relationship in part means being able to be authentically yourself without fear of a negative response from your partner. Those responses include being ridiculed, condemned, rejected, or mocked. In short, you need to be able to speak your truth always without worrying about what your spouse will think. And after some practice, trust me, I know this is possible. Now, often we just believe we'll get that reaction, even if that's not the case. So our fear holds us silent. When you feel truly safe together, though, you're able to share whatever you need to. Your deepest fears and your murky history, as well as your hopes, your dreams, and your wildest fantasies. The fear of shame or judgment is no longer relevant, and your inhibitions can simply melt away, leaving you and your love open to enjoy much more exciting dialogue. Something I'm thinking Billy could perhaps focus on with Cooper. If you want your relationship and also your sex life to function at a very high level, then learning how to cultivate safety is a key skill for you and your love to learn. Once you learn how to relate to each other on a whole new level of honesty and openness, and you also 100% accept your partner for exactly who they are without trying to change them, then you can begin to take your love and your sex life off to new and entirely exciting places. I believe that in cultivating more emotional intimacy, you actually open the doors to immense sexual intimacy. You can co-create a sex life that is filled with excitement, adventure, and risk without ever needing to go outside your relationship to fulfill that. You are safe in the knowledge that you have someone who loves you entirely and with whom you are totally safe. And it's precisely this safety that allows you to take risks together. In sex life, Billy's withholds to her husband about her sexual desires were undoubtedly the crux of their problem. Had they developed the muscle in their relationship to discuss the things that can be awkward or downright uncomfortable to talk about, then it seems far more unlikely she'd have ever needed to fantasize about Brad. With that said, as Rose says in Titanic, a woman's heart is a deep ocean of secrets, and we are all allowed to have secrets, memories, fantasies that we never share, things that are just for us. If your withholds are damaging your marriage, though, then it's time to learn how to really open up to the person you've chosen to spend your life with, and to also really understand what needs to be said and what's absolutely better left unsaid. And if you need some help with that, I'm right here. If you enjoyed this, then please subscribe to my channel where I enjoy mixing storytelling and random anecdotes with advice and teaching. You can follow me on Facebook or Instagram by clicking the links below. You can find out more about the products and services we offer, and you can download a few freebies too on our website, hea-rt.com. If you have any comments, opinions, or personal anecdotes to share, please feel free to drop them below. Thanks so much for listening.